Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Now, if you have watched part one of this little video series, then you will know that I will talk about the Rain Wild Chronicles books 3 and 4 in this vlog. I would highly recommend you watch the first part of this vlog first. It's just that it turned out to be very long. I was talking a lot. So I decided to cut it into 2 videos while I was editing. And yeah, so you can go and check out part 1. And if you've already watched it, then enjoy seeing part 2. So I'm now halfway through City of Dragons. I think it is the third book in this series, and I thought we can talk about it. Now, if my hair looks a little bit disheveled, we're currently going through a heat wave. A pretty major one, like we just started it, but it's gonna last a while. And I just did all the cleaning around the house. I'm still doing laundry in the background, so you just have to deal with it. Now, this book feels a little bit different from the first 2 books. It definitely feels like we are opening the world up a little bit now, and we are reintroducing some characters that we have seen before in this series or in some other series in the realm of the Elderlings. And because of that, it also feels like things are going to get a little bit more depressing again. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like nothing bad has happened in the first 2 books of the series, but it always felt kind of contained because we're so focused on the dragon keepers and their journey through the jungle. Now, because in this one we are going back to some other characters that are not on this journey but are linked to the dragons or some of our characters in some way, because of that we're also reintroducing the terrible things that are going on in this world in general. And we already start this book off with a chapter that left me so confused, and that is also extremely upsetting and violent in a way. We are going back to a character that we have met before in the realm of the Elderlings, and that character is in a particularly bad situation. The thing is, we have no idea how they ended up there or like what's really going on. Like, it does get more obvious, but still. So it was kind of a jarring start to this third book because this is a character we haven't seen at all in this series yet. Like, we haven't heard their name mentioned maybe, but also we have no clue how they got there and what's happening to them. So in that regard, it was a little bit of a rocky start for me to go back to this series, and it also reinforces that feeling that book 1 and 2 are like one arc of this story, and then we are now moving on to kind of the next arc of it all. Some more dramatic stuff is going on. We might also return to some characters that maybe we haven't missed at all, and also some that maybe we have missed a lot, and where maybe at the beginning we would have never thought we would miss them, but now it's like the happiest reunion. So yeah, you know, Robin Hobb, her character work, just impeccable, phenomenal. Queen of fantasy with strong characters that are complex, that can be likable and unlikable, and they can be the biggest little shits in the world. So far, I'm really happy with how this book is going. This one is also significantly shorter again. Like, the books in this series are a little bit on the short side for the realm of the Elderlings in general, but this one is quite short, and then the 4th one is also quite short. So because of that, it feels kind of snappy. Like, I wasn't even really feeling like I had already reached the halfway point, but then I checked and I was like, oh, time to film that update, I guess. So because of that, it just feels like things are moving a little bit snappier than they did for the first two books of that series. And because also we are already introduced to these characters, even though they maybe haven't shown up for a while. So we just have to understand where they are, but we don't really have to figure out who they are so much anymore. So I guess we can go into a little bit more action right now. Now, if I say action, this is still Robin Hobb, so don't get your hopes up. But there is like, some movement, characters are going places, characters are experiencing things. So it feels like we have a little bit more stuff going on from the first two books, where it very much felt like we are getting to know these characters, they are getting to know themselves and developing, and we're just really focused in on that and on this journey that they go on, both like in the wilds and then also just within themselves. So now world is opening up, other characters are put back into the story a little bit more. We see a little bit more of what's going on in the world in general and how that might impact, our group of characters that are still kind of the main focus of this all. I must say, I do miss Arlise a little bit in the first half of this book. I think we only get like one real chapter from her point of view, maybe two, and she's like in her research era right now. Like she is kind of living the dream, but also not. And I really like this complicated feeling that Arlise has at the point where they're at and at what might happen in the future. I really enjoy that. However, I feel like we don't really get to see a lot of her. We do still see quite a bit of Thymara, but again, I don't want to like lose sight of them too much when we get all of these other characters brought back in. So I'm also a little bit worried, like even though, as I said, it feels a little bit more snappy and like things are moving, I'm also a little bit worried that this book and also the sequel might be too short for what I want. But for now, I'm just enjoying it. I'm vibing. It's Robin Hobb. I can completely trust her in a way, like not necessarily with like all topics, but like in general for her books. I think she will do a great job. So I'm having a good time, and I think we should talk again once I have finished this one. Hi, hello. I'm recording this during a heat wave, so we just have to deal with it. It is hot in Germany right now, and I just finished reading City of Dragons, and that means that we need to chat for a little while. I think this update can be a little bit shorter because this book is a little bit shorter, and it felt very short. Like I mentioned that in my last update, but it really felt like a short book because it's Robin Hobb. Like she likes to take her time with the storylines, with the character building, with the things that are going on. So it just feels short, even though it was like a normal length audiobook. Okay, so what can I say? I think I will give this one 4 stars again. I think so far I gave all of these 4 stars in this series. I think in a way, Robin Hobb is much kinder to these characters right now. So you don't have like the huge emotional moments. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still terrible stuff going on. But there was really just like one thing I got super anxious about and was like, if Robin Hobb does something that upsets me right now, I will sue her. But then things turned out kind of okay. So yeah, I think because of that, this series, I like it in a way because, it doesn't have these huge emotional stakes for me. And I think that's more what I need right now. But at the same time, it's just not creating the same like highs and lows as the other series in the Realm of the Elderling, if you know what I mean. But yeah, in general, I am still enjoying it. This does very much feel like this book and the 4th book also should have just been one book because, yeah, it's not like anything is resolved really. It almost feels like a cliffhanger ending right now, and that's also why I'm recording this, even though I look like this, because I want to go into the last book immediately, and I will probably start that tonight. There's like stuff going on, and there's some things I want to talk about, but at the same time, I don't feel like a lot happened in this book, and it's hard to talk about. And I can totally see why people don't really love this series within the realm of the Elderlings, even though I still have a good time. But it's just not the signature, like, realm of the Elderlings stuff here. And it just feels a little bit out of balance with, like, how long the first and the second book were and how much time we spent there. And now it seems like we don't have that much time left to resolve these things. So even though I'm pretty sure that by the end of the fourth book, I will be happy with everything that's going on and like how things will be resolved, right now it just feels like it might be a little bit rushed, even though I know Robin Hobb doesn't rush, right? I don't know. So we'll see about that. It was a good time. I'm glad that we are now going into the final book, because I definitely want to know how these storylines will end. For some characters more than for others. And I just, yeah, the dragons, they're not always my favorite, the way they're written and the way their characters are. So I'm also intrigued to see how that will balance out by the end of the fourth book. Because on the one hand, like, yeah, they are dragons. They are like these majestic beings that can eat you in a second. But at the same time, I feel like if you are sentient and then you can't respect other sentient beings just because you could possibly eat them, that doesn't seem like a nice trait to me. And I do understand that dragons don't need to be nice, but it's just, I get a little bit irritated with them, not gonna lie. But yeah, I don't think I have that much more to say. I'm really intrigued to see how things will end and wrap up. There is more going on in a way, and yeah, I'm here for the ride. I just really hope things won't be rushed at the end, because yeah, I think the fourth book is the shortest and it feels like we have so many things going on right now in the book. So I think that's all I'm gonna say for the spoiler-free part, and I want to go into a couple spoilery things just for the people who have read this book already. So spoilers ahead, you have been warned. Use the chapters to jump over this part if you haven't read the series yet, so you can hear my spoiler-free thoughts on the final book. So we start this book off with Tintaglia and Icefire, which I found interesting because we hadn't really known what they were up to. I do kind of like that they don't actually like each other. It's like a very dragon thing, but because they think that they're the last of their kind, they are kind of mates, I guess. But especially in the epilogue, you can really see that it's not going super well. And we also learn a little bit more about like the length that the people are going to get the dragon parts for the Duke of Kelsit. Now, the whole Kelsit situation is playing a huge part right now, and I'm really intrigued to see how that is resolved. The whole like aging kind of emperor asshole who just won't die. I'm just leaving that out there. Do with that what you will. Just reminds me of someone. I don't know. Some old people just, like most old people deserve to have like a long, long life. Some don't. The Duke of Kelsit does not. I do think it is interesting that we do get a little peek into his court as well. I am intrigued by the daughter. I don't know if she will actually play a role or whether she's just a pawn that people are using right now, but it seems interesting to me. Then we go to Selden, and that was the part where I was completely confused because, like, what the hell happened to Selden? We do learn throughout the book a little bit of what happened. Basically, he ran out of money and then his friends sold him. But when we start out with him, it's like, what is going on? And there are these awful people who basically had him as a curiosity in like a circus situation, and he's really ill, and Tintaglia just forgot about him in a way. And yeah, it just, his family is like, oh, well, he's fine. I'm sure he's fine. And I'm like, what? So yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued to see how things will end with Selden, because I do anticipate that he will reach the court of the Duke of Kelsid, and then we'll see what happens. I hope they don't eat him, because they literally just ate a part of him. I wish I could tell Cleo about the cannibalism, because that's kind of like her thing, is books about cannibalism. And I think she's still on the first book. Maybe she finished that by now. She's missing out here. Yeah, that's Selden. Like, Selden completely confused me. Then we go back to my dear love, Malta. And I was so excited we get more Malta in this series. I was so happy. Now, we see her amazing relationship with Rain, which, yeah, very excited about that. I think they are so cute together, and I just really loved seeing them get together in the Life Ship Traders series, so that we go back and they're having their child, and it's just all so cute, and I'm really happy we're getting that. But then we have this whole thing where Malta gets lost, and then she starts giving birth to her child in the rain, in the storm, and this Kelsid dude shows up, and he basically wants to kill her and the child and then take them to say that they are of dragons. And I got so stressed. I got so stressed about that whole thing. I was like, Robin Hobb, if you hurt Malta or that child, I will never forgive you for that. And luckily, Malta, badass that she is, she managed to get out of that situation. So now they are on the Tarman going back to Kelsingra, and I'm definitely intrigued to see how that will all play out, because now they need the help of a dragon so that the child will be able to live. And so far the dragons haven't been like super excited about helping humans with anything, or like being asked to help with anything. They really think they are like the superiors in this situation. And as I mentioned, because of that, the dragons do get on my nerves. I'm not gonna lie. I think they could show a little bit more thanks, like not that all of the stuff that is done for them needs to be thanked for. I mean, the whole like setup at the beginning, they were mistreated in a way, but then there are these moments where like they're so unthankful that I'm like, bitch, please, come on. So yeah, we'll see about that. I'm intrigued to see how that will all turn out. With Alice, we lose her a little bit in this book. We don't really get a whole ton of Alice. It feels like 2 chapters. Maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like 2 chapters. And with her whole situation, I think it's like really interesting, because in a way, this reminds me a little bit of the story of like colonialism, and how these like historical aspects were taken by colonizers. And you know, this whole discussion that I also have had in my family, where people are like, well, it's good we took all those historical pieces, like, is it Egypt or from Asia or in North America from like indigenous people? It's good we took all that away from them so we could preserve it. And this has like a similar thing with Kelsingra, because Arlise wants everything to stay the same until she touched it, and she has like noted everything down about it. And then on the other hand, we have Thymara, and especially Rascal? Whatever his name is. But yeah, they're basically experiencing that this city is a dragon and elderling city. So when, not Tintaglia, the other annoying dragon, Sintara, when she finally learns to fly, which she only does because she's a petty bitch, then they experience like the real Kelsingra, because Sintara kind of brings it back online, if you want to say so. So then Arlise gets mad at them, and she's like, oh no, like you're destroying the history, when like Rapskull and Thymara are saying, hey, this isn't history for us. This is our place now. Like, we will bring it back to life. And while I don't think you can completely transfer that to the whole like culture colonial thing that I just mentioned, I think it still has like elements of that a little bit, because obviously, the colonized people, they would have maybe used these things for their cultural practices and in that way kept it alive. But by putting it into like museums or hiding it in like university cellars, that all fell away and they couldn't use these objects anymore. And now they're just like dusty things somewhere. You know what I mean? So I think it has a little bit of a similarity to that discussion, why it's not like one-on-one comparable. I hope I made sense there, but I thought it was interesting to bring this into the discussion and into the story. Now with Thymara, we do see that she is making more progress in her character, I guess, because like she now realized that she's actually really beautiful now, and she also had like her night with Rapskull, so yeah, I'm intrigued to see how that will all develop, because Tats did not take that very well. But I also like, I don't know if I have like a real preference here. I think that there are elements to both Tats and Rapskull that I find extremely annoying, and I would think that Thymara deserves better than either of them. But we'll see how the final book will handle that whole situation. But yeah, overall, this was a fun time, I guess. Oh, we still have Hest. And Hest, oh my god, Hest is such a mess. Now, my friend Shadia mentioned that she thinks Hest is worse than Kyle. I don't think I agree with that. I think the whole like slavery situation with Kyle was still worse. I think what makes Hest worse is that he wants to be the bad guy, while Kyle still was hiding behind the I want to save the family thing, that you could at least understand why he's doing it. Hest just really likes to dominate people and he likes to be an asshole. And I think, yeah, we get more of that. And I don't know, I still don't think it's like nice what happens to him with this Kelsidian assassin dude. But yeah, I'm not quite ready for Hest in the next book. And now my soup is done. Okay, so yeah, I had to run and save my soup. Today, I feel so awful. I usually love the heat, but once I start doing something and it's hot, I get so uncomfortable. But whatever. What I was saying is Hest, he's on the journey now to our other characters. It will be interesting to see what happens when he shows up there. He definitely thinks that everyone's still the same, and then both Arlise and Cedric have changed a lot since Hest last saw them. So I don't think they will appreciate the way he is planning to dealing with them. And then, yeah, Cedric and Carson, so cute. So cute. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Carson is an angel. And last but not least, Hest's mum. I think we met her for the first time in this book, and this woman is a lot. Interesting. Interesting woman. Interesting choice of a wife. But yeah, that's it. That's my update. We'll talk again once I'm halfway through that final book. So I'm now halfway through Blood of Dragons, the final book in the Rain Wild Chronicles, and I wanted to give you a very quick update how things are going. Now, at the halfway point, things are very dramatic for some of our characters. For one dragon character in particular, things are not looking super great right now, but I am pretty confident things will work out. I'm not quite sure. We will see. In general, I feel like in this series, the stakes feel higher in the sense that some of our characters get into way more dangerous situations and really have to fight for their lives. I feel like in the other series in the Realm of the Elderlings, the stakes are definitely there as well, but they always feel a little bit more removed, a little bit more, on the macro level, and not like immediate right here in my face danger of being dead in a second. So In that regard, that series does feel quite different, and I am liking it. I think it's quite refreshing for the realm of the Elderlings to be a little bit more in the action, to have these very like immediate stakes in a way, like stuff that can be resolved in a chapter or two, where our characters really have to fight for something. So I think that's quite interesting to see. Apart from that, I have a similar issue with this book that I already had a little bit with the last one, and that is that we kind of lose sight of the main characters of the first two books. So I feel like we still follow Thymara a little bit, but with Arlise, she has been pushed to the side so much as a character. We do still get some chapters from her point of view, but not nearly enough for me personally. And that feels a little bit like a wasted opportunity, because like we really build her up and now we kind of ignore her on the sidelines. Instead, we do get more chapters from other characters that got reintroduced or introduced in the third book. And one character in particular, and I don't want to name names, but this one guy, I just don't care. I don't care what happens to him. I don't want to hear about all his suffering and how it's like all so bad now. I really don't care. And in the third book, I was like, yeah, okay, but we see like some things that are going on in the background that we wouldn't see otherwise. But right now, I feel like we could know everything about that situation without following this particular character. I do have this thing with like multi-POV stories, especially with like villain POVs, that I just don't like them. I just don't like them. I'm so sorry, but I don't need to know what the opposing side is doing. Like, for me, it's enough to know when our like protagonists find out, and I don't need, my eyes on the opposing camp, if you know what I mean. So in that regard, I'm not quite loving all of the perspectives that we're getting, and it does feel like the things I would be more interested in, we only get like glimpses of, and then we have stuff where I'm like, okay, I guess like I can read about that, but it's not like giving me anything. Now, speaking of giving me anything, there were one or two things in this book. I'm not quite sure. I think the first thing was also in this book, but because I started this one immediately after the third one, I might be mixing things up here a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. There were two things, like a mention of the rooster crown, and then a mention of the fingertip prints that one of the characters has from a previous series in the Realm of the Elderlings. And I had like goosebumps, like the hair on my arms was standing up, and I was like, oh my god, I should film this. Like, I had such a visceral reaction just to the mention of these things. And if you know what they refer to, who popped into my mind, who the best character, in my opinion, in the whole Realm of the Elderling is. And this sadly is the only series where this character doesn't show up, I think. Because this character better is in the last series, but So I think just because of this fact that this character is not in Rain Wild Chronicles, this is my least favorite series. That's just like a little side note for the people who have read the series and know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, the goosebumps, they were gone too quickly. I couldn't get it on camera, unfortunately, but you have to trust me. Like, literally, all the hair was standing up on my arms. So many feels. And we are also getting some answers now in this book that relate to what happens in the very first series, in the Farseer series. And so while I'm like learning all of these new facts in a way, I kept thinking, oh my god, it's going to be so interesting to reread Farseer now. Because honestly, while I liked it, I liked it a lot when I read it the first time. I didn't feel like super much excitement about the idea of rereading it, but now I'm like, this is gonna be interesting because now with like all the things I know now, it will be so interesting to go back, and especially with the second and third book, to really understand again what the things were that were happening there, because we just didn't know the things, but now I do. Now I do. So those are kind of like the things that are going through my mind right now as I'm listening to this. I'm really glad that we have like some characters again that were in earlier series. I'm intrigued to see how some of these situations will resolve, especially also with one storyline where a character is kind of kidnapped and kind of kept as a slave, and the direction this is taking right now is super, super intriguing to me. And we do have some other things, like I love learning more about this lost city and just, the things that made this what it was when it still like really existed. So yeah, it's interesting still. I'm enjoying it still. Also, I think in my last update, I mixed it up and I thought the fourth book was the shortest one in the series, but the third book was the shortest one in the series. So this one is a little bit longer again, and I think that is good because we do follow so many people around. And yeah, I'm just like very intrigued now to see how the Rain Wild Chronicles will end. And then I feel this like existential dread that next year, I will read the, for now, final series in the Realm of the Etherlings, and that does not feel good. That does not feel right. Like, I need so many more books in this world following these characters. I can't say goodbye. I'm so scared. But for now, we're just going to finish the Rain Wild Chronicles, and I'll be back. It is always so strange to come to you with the conclusion, the final update of a long reading project. But once again, we are here because I have finished Blood of Dragons, and it's time to talk about the finale. What happened? How do I feel about it? How do I feel about the series overall? That's what we're gonna do now. So, Blood of Dragons, was it a good conclusion? I would say yes. This one was definitely more one of those where you get a neat little bow at the end a little bit. I'm not always the biggest fan of that, but it did give me some happy tears in the end, so I guess I can always appreciate that, especially considering, Robin Hobb likes to put characters through quite a lot of stuff, so them having, a good ending, kind of nice. It's kind of nice. Some quite unhinged stuff happened in this book. Like, this is definitely not one for, people who don't like gore, and maybe even, dare I say it, cannibalism a little bit. So if you're like really sensitive to that, maybe don't read the book. It definitely it did some things, and I never thought Robin Hobb would actually go there. But then again, I think there's very few places where Robin Hobb will not send her characters off to. So yeah, it's a bit unhinged, but we do have some great character moments as well. And I think, as I had mentioned throughout this video again and again, this series does have a little bit more action than the other series. And we see that again with the ending. We do actually have kind of like a dragon fight in the end. And, there's no way around it. Like, our characters are not in a position where they can really choose any other way. And usually with like a lot of Robin Hobb's books, you would think, oh no, now a battle is happening, and then something else would happen and they wouldn't even have to fight the battle. But this time maybe there really was a battle. Don't want to say too much, but things happened. So overall, I did have a good time. I would still say this is the weakest of the Realm of the Elderling series that I have read so far. But then also, I think like there is right now only one more for me to read, and I am prepared for that to completely crush my spirit. So I think I can say that this is the weakest series within the Realm of the Elderlings. Still, it's Robin Hobb. It was great. I did really enjoy some of the discussions we get in here. Now, what I must say is that for the discussions of like ableism that we had, especially in the first book, I don't exactly love how that was resolved in the end. I feel like we had this like magical healing, the magical fix to disability in a way with this book. And I don't particularly love that. So this is a bit disappointing. I think it makes sense in regards to how this world works. But on the other hand, it meant that we don't actually ever have to confront the ableism. And even in this last book, we have this one moment that I can't describe right now because it would be a huge spoiler, but where a character has this extremely ableist thought, and it's just there. It's there on the page, nothing happens with it. So in this regard, I was disappointed, unfortunately. I really thought Robin Hobb would do something more interesting with the setup from the first book. But on the other hand, as I said, it kind of makes sense for the world. Now, what I did really appreciate is how we integrated queerness, especially gay characters, in this book, because if you have read the series, you know that there is other like queer themes in there, but they're not always like super happy. And again, in this one, we start out with more of a complicated, not very happy gay situation. But then throughout the book, it gets completely turned around, and we see some really wonderful, complex, but joyous and healthy gay love. And that's amazing. And I absolutely love that. And yeah, the way we end things with that as well is just so great. And I had these moments where I was like really, really like rooting for our characters and like kind of like cheering them on their decisions and how they stood up for themselves. And yeah, it was really great. Like in that regard, I think it did a lot of good. And moving on from like representation, obviously it was a fantastic fantasy story concerning dragons. I think that Robin Hobb has a very interesting way of depicting dragons and their kind of motivations and their thoughts. I don't always love them, but then they have their moments as well where I'm like, there you go. There you go. So yeah, it's a little bit up and down with the dragons, but all in all, I would say they're just like really interesting, complex creatures where even though I don't always love them, I think they are created in a very, very fantastic way by Robin Hobb. Sometimes you do love them. Sometimes they are actually quite cute. Now I am very intrigued how some of what has happened in this final book will then play into the next series, the Fitz and the Fool series. I'm very intrigued to see like what kind of links there will be between the series. But yeah, I won't find that out until next year because I will stretch my Realm of the Elderlings journey out as much as I possibly can. I think that's all I can say for the spoiler-free part. So if you have not read the book yet, then thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you feel like picking the series up now? Have I piqued your interest, or do you feel like this might not be the one for you? I think if you're like a hardcore Robin Hobb fan, this is more like a tasty, nice little snack compared to the other series that get very long and very deep and very heavy. But if maybe the other series are a bit much for you, then this might be exactly what you need, maybe. Who knows? So yeah, I would love to hear about that in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like. That really, really makes me happy. Okay, for the people who have read this final book, I want to discuss some things in a little bit more detail. Now, let's hope I can keep this concise, because this video is probably very long, and if you're still here, congrats to you. You're a real one. Let's try talk about this final book. Now, I must confess, because I read book 3 and book 4 immediately after each other, I'm not quite sure anymore where book 4 began, so I'll probably talk more about stuff that happened more towards the end of the book now, but I feel like some of these things need to be addressed. And the first thing I need to talk about to you is the end of Hest. And I got frustrated, I'm not gonna lie, with the amount of Hest that we had in this book. Hest has never been a character that I wanted to learn more about. We obviously see him through the eyes of Cedric, as well as, I almost said Althea there. What's her name? Elise. So we do have a pretty good picture of Hest from the start of this little series, and it's not very favorable. And then we do go back to him, and we see that because of what Cedric did and all of that, Hest gets sucked back into the dragon storyline. And then we need to follow him, which I found very frustrating, but whatever. He gets kind of enslaved by the Kilcidians, so you almost start feeling bad for him, but not really, because he's still himself, unfortunately, which you can see really well once they arrive in Kelsingra. The way he thinks he can win back Cedric, and also how he's planning to get back Arlise so he can steal her claim on the treasures of Kelsingra. He's still this disgusting little piece of a man. And then we have this whole moment where he's trying to seduce, I don't remember the keeper's name, but one of the young keepers. These are young people. They're maybe I don't know, 16, 17, something like that. And he is so disgusting. And they have this whole moment in the tower where the keeper punches him in the face and calls him an old man, and I was like, yes, 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 yes. And then obviously Cedric also punches him, and then I don't know, how can you have so little introspection? How can you be punched in the face by multiple people and left by your wife very publicly and still think you're gonna win this round? I don't understand how that works, but for men it seems to work. And so he then goes and he thinks he can steal Kalo and make him his dragon, as in his property. And obviously, knowing Kalo, that did not go well, and Kalo ate him. And I did not see that coming. I was I'm laughing because I was so in shock at that moment. I remember I was in the parking lot about to go into the supermarket, and I just had to stand there for a second and just laugh out of shock. Not because I think it's particularly funny, nobody deserves to be eaten by a dragon, but oh my god, that was such a scene. Robin Hobb was really out there trolling us for a second there. And yeah, I just had to laugh and laugh. Now, I really don't like that because of that, and Kalo didn't really tell anyone. Now nobody really knows what happened to him, and I would have liked to, for Arlise and Cedric to get more of a conclusion to that whole thing. I mean, obviously they had this moment where they really managed to stand up to Hest and to tell him that he's a piece of a man and that he can go to hell, basically, but still, especially with Arlise, I felt right after Hest disappeared, she was still really scared that he might be around every corner and stuff like that. So yeah, that wasn't super great, I guess. That was very interesting indeed. Very interesting scene. Then, talking about the other very, very disturbing and disgusting part of this story, of this book, we have to talk about Selden. And oh my God, like Robin Hobb was like, how can I make Selden suffer for real? And that poor boy. I mean, we don't get like a ton of his point of view, which I think is a kindness because I did not want to be there with what happened to him. Like, first, they cut out this part of his shoulder. That might have been in the previous book. But then the Duke starts like literally sucking his blood. What? That was so disgusting. And I mean, I did really like the kind of romance with Chasim, I think her name is. That was very cute, and especially when they kissed the first time, it was so adorable. And like, Selden was all like, I'm this weird, like, lizard man. She's probably gonna think it's so weird. And then she's like, oh my God, this was the first, like, soft, kind touch from a man I have received in my whole life. And it's like so heartbreaking. And I am very intrigued whether we will see the two again in the next series in the Realm of the Elderlings, because Chasim is now the Duchess of Kelsid, and Selden is still the singer for Tintaglia, so we'll see whether they show up again, but I really thought their little romance was absolutely precious, and still, the whole sucking the blood, oh my God, is so disgusting, and that whole man was so disgusting, and I think I said that in the update for the previous book as well, but when you see these very old rulers who are very, very bad for their country, and they just don't die. Kind of reminded me of someone. Just putting that out there. So that was like the gross, disgusting parts. Then we have the whole situation with Tintaglia, and that relates to Rain and Malta and their son. Now, I had said, if Robin Hobb hurts Malta or her son, I will protest. And I think she heard that, because she did not. They were on a very difficult journey, and I felt so much for Malta. Like, honestly, having seen her whole journey from like the little brat she was to the protective mom, it's kind of beautiful. And I love that with her character arc, she turned like into a good person and into a very responsible person before she became a mom, because like otherwise I would find it problematic, like if she had become a good person because she became a mom, but like it's not what happened. But still, seeing her being so protective of her child, it was very, very sweet. And obviously in the end it worked out. Tintaglia did survive. Her whole mating thing with Icefire, I'm still kind of thinking about this, because like at some point I was like, wait a minute, now Tintaglia is with Kalo. Nobody from the dragon really likes Icefire. He probably also wasn't part of like the Kilsingra dragons, not quite sure about that. And my beautiful fool risked their life to bring Icefire back. Like, for what? Like, was it really worth it? Like, would it have worked out without Icefire? Maybe? I don't know. Like, it's really hard because he's not like in the story a whole lot, but then at the same time, he very much influences what Tintaglia does. And we don't really know if everything could have happened without Icefire. Probably not. But at the same time, I'm like, he's still so unimportant in the grand scheme of things that I'm like, did we have to go through all of that to bring him back? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. I need to talk about this. Okay, then we have like the whole keeper situation. We have the kind of love triangle with Thymara and Tats and Rapskill. Now, Rapskill is turning into this like elderling person that he has been kind of stalking in the memory stones. And what I thought was really, really interesting is that very, very early on, Rapskill started kind of manipulating Saimara, and she never really noticed it. But when he started to become more and more this elderling persona, he just got more in that sense. Like, I still felt like he is the same character, that just got really amplified. And suddenly Thymara notices it as well. And I was like really thinking about how he had this in himself this whole time, but Thymara didn't really take note of it in a way. She didn't really feel manipulated in the same way by him. But like very early on, he tried to get in her pants. You know what I mean? So yeah, I thought that was very interesting how that was portrayed. And then also with like Tats, I was kind of rooting for Tats, but I also didn't love how he sometimes thought he deserved Thymara in a way. Like, he had been waiting for her, he had been going on this whole quest for her, and now she better choose him. He sometimes had these moments where I really didn't like his entitlement in that regard, but overall I am glad they ended up together in a way, even though it was a little bit kind of gross as well, with like the dragons mating and that kind of making them horny. I don't know how I felt about that. But apart from that, I did like Tats as a character, and I did kind of like how devoted he was to Thymara, but it got a little bit too much for me in parts. Thymara, still completely perfect person. I love her so much. And I think we have this moment where Rapskill is trying to push her to go down into the well, and he's like, you're just like refusing to change, and you're just, holding back because you just don't want to help all of us and stuff. What I really love about Thymara's character is that she is so sure of herself and who she is that it doesn't really affect her like all of the things the others do. Like, obviously it hurts her sometimes, but it doesn't change who she is. And I love that about her character. And even though she does go into the well in the end, and she does get pressured in a way, it is like important, but also she does not do what Rapskill wants her to do, and that is like take on this elderling persona. And she always stays herself in a way through all of it, and she doesn't abandon herself, and she doesn't make herself easier for other people. And I love that. She's perfect. She's an amazing character. Okay, I promise we're almost done here. We have Arlise and Leftren. They're all in here, but they're all muddled, as always. I really liked their little romance as well. I had mentioned multiple times that I think Arlise was just not in the final two books enough. I feel like we kind of put her on the sidelines. She did have that moment with Hest, which was great, and she did really have this chance to choose Leftren wholeheartedly and openly, and that was great. And still, I think that we kind of lost sight of her a little bit in this book, but I am happy for them. They have Tarman. Tarman is hilarious. Those last scenes where they are with Althea and Paragon is kind of like translating what Tarman is thinking, because Tarman can't really speak because he doesn't have a figurehead. It's so funny. I loved so much. Yeah, very, very great. I love the life ships. They're amazing. It's like an amazing concept. And then also Cedric and Carson. Carson, my love, the perfect man in these books. Like, Carson is fantastic. And yeah, he and Cedric together, absolute perfection. The moment when Hest is so convinced that Cedric will come back to him, when Cedric has found like this perfect man who accepts him, who loves him, who supports him. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about their relationship because it was honestly so beautiful. And I love that while Cedric had to adapt to this new life and kind of the circumstances that they were in, Carson never expected him to change. He really loved Cedric for the person that he is. And he even puts on the like elderling clothing, even though he's like a hunter at heart and all of that. And Cedric in the end is the one who goes to war and Carson stays behind. And that I think their dynamic is just everything, and we should all strive to find a relationship that is like that. Because this is like the true love. And even if it doesn't last for a lifetime, you know, but if you just find someone who loves you like that for a little while, that is true love. Just putting that out there. So yeah, I think with that, I need to end this clip because my prediction is that this video is going to be 2 hours long. And I'm very sorry about that. Talking about 4 books in one video is definitely not something I should do. But I hope you had fun watching this. I hope you have some comments for me because I do still feel very strongly about all of these characters and their journeys. And when you finish a Robin Hobb series, you just feel like you have made so many friends and now they're gone. It's very heartbreaking, but her characters really feel so real and it's amazing. And I can't wait to read the final trilogy next year. I'm not ready, but we're gonna do it. So leave all your comments for this series down below. If you talk about spoilers, make sure that you put spoiler in the comment and then hit enter a couple of times so nobody gets spoiled by accident. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. That always makes me very happy. And I will talk to you soon. Bye!